Hey, and welcome back to VGX on the Hunt Roadshow. As you can tell, I'm not on the road today, but I was yesterday and found some pretty good deals in a local town, just kind of a hop, skip, and a jump, right from where we are at. And first of all, we stopped in kind of a smaller town right in between there, this and Brainerd. Is the main town I'm looking at going to. Yeah, I was looking at going to yesterday, and right in the middle there is a small town called Staples. Not very big, but big enough to house one small little pawn shop. And those are the ones I like. If pawn shops get too big, then they have to get every penny out of what something is worth in order to pay for all the bills. Otherwise, they would crumble under their own weight. But these smaller pawn shops in these smaller towns can get away with just doing flat rate money on games. And the prices here are pretty good for flat rate. PS3, 360, and Wii are all $8 a piece, I believe. And then everything else under that is less than $5 usually. But when you get those type of prices, you're usually pretty pick clean. But you always got to go in there and see what they got, because you never know, one might just come through. And these probably have not been sitting there too long, because I picked up a few popular Wii games for the Wii for $8 a piece. New Super Mario Bros. Wii, Wii Sports, and Super Paper Mario. Nothing real grand or extravagant, actually very common games, probably one of the biggest sellers on the whole system, but still, for a system that is it's got to be 8 years old now, maybe 9? I'll have to read up and remember that, I'm not quite sure. But for these to be still in higher demand for how common these games are, it really does say something. But yeah, not too bad there. And then they really don't have much for retro games at all. But one thing I have learned recently is there is a couple Sega Genesis sports games that are worth a little bit of money. And the most popular one, probably, if you think about all the Maddens and all the, what else? Soccer, football, all those EA sports games. The NHL ones are always the most fondly remembered on that system. And specifically NHL 94, which we found complete in box at this pawn shop for, I think it was $4. So, really good deal on that, because these hold their value a little bit. I mean, nothing crazy, but they're certainly not worth the dollar or less that any other sports game is worth, especially on the Genesis. Okay, and then we got into Brainerd, Minnesota, which is a little bit bigger, and they have all the bigger stores, all the things that one area can have, I suppose. And we went to a couple pawn shops, a couple game stores, and a couple of retail stores even. So I hate going to GameStop. I'm not a big fan of them, but they do have games, and they do have them at cheap prices sometimes. You can find some deals there sometimes. And in this one, it was no different. We found Korg DS10 Plus, which this is not really a game, I would say. It's kind of like GarageBand that came on your iPad, except this was for your DS. And it's still pretty sought after for reasons I'm not entirely sure why. I don't know what you can do with the music afterward. I don't know who would be carrying their DS Lite with them to say, hey, look at my music. But I'm also the same guy that saw a commercial the other day with a couple guys on a street corner playing a GarageBand song on their iPad, and people were giving them money. I'm not sure. I don't really consider that too much of a talent. Maybe, sure, maybe some dexterity, maybe some musical, whatever. But why not? Why not just play a real instrument at that point? And I don't think this is too different in that case. I don't think I would enjoy this too much. I don't know. I haven't tried it. I should. But yeah, it's probably going to go on the site, and it's probably going to go pretty fast because these are pretty sought after for whatever reason, like I said. And speaking of sought after, we found Cave Story 3D on the 3DS, which is already one of the more collectible 3DS games. Limited run at the beginning, almost near launch, and really prices have been going up and up and up, and staying well above the $22.49 that I had paid for this. So that's what was at GameStop there. I mean, thousands of games in there. I come up with 2. So nothing real great there, but then we went into Best Buy. That is right next door there, and like I said, in all my previous episodes, we go to Best Buy because we have the Gamers Club unlocked, which is 20% off of all brand new games, which is huge for us. And we found a few good ones in there today. Amazing Spider-Man for PS3. Don't ask me to try and explain why this one is still more sought after. It still costs more than The Amazing Spider-Man 2. That just came out, 2 months ago on PS3? It blows my mind. I don't get it. Neither of them were really that great of a game, I don't think. But for whatever reason, this one specifically has always stayed $30 or above. If you can get it under $30, you got a good deal. Meanwhile, Amazing Spider-Man 2, I've seen it on sale already for under $30. Then we found Dark Souls 2, the Black Armor Edition, which we paid full price for this, and I was happy to do so because the Black Armor Edition is pretty hard to find now. It was pretty common when the game first launched. You go into stores and it seemed like a lot of them had them behind the counter. Quite a few copies of them. That just goes to show you how well Dark Souls 2 sold. I don't think this one cost any more. Well, I know for us it didn't cost any more than what the standard edition did at launch. I think it was just more of if you pre-ordered it, you probably got this copy. And then, I don't know, Namco must have thought they would pre-order a whole heck of a lot more than they did. So a lot of these that were produced kind of spilled over into the regular retail. But I'm happy to have it because it certainly is starting to get harder to find. And Dark Souls 2 people are crazy. So something to hold on to. Maybe hold on to this until it becomes a real collector's item. I don't know if Dark Souls 2 will be that remembered. I think a lot of people go back to Demon Souls where it all started. Dark Souls where it really got popular. And then probably, Bloodborne coming out next. We'll see what that's all about. I think in the grand scheme of things, Dark Souls 2 might be skipped over, even though it's a pretty good iteration on the series, from what I've heard. I'm not a Dark Souls guy, so don't lay into me about that. And finally, Best Buy. I don't know why Best Buy gets in the business of collector's editions. It seems like they can't be making any money on this stuff. Every time you go to a Best Buy, it seems like there's some old collector's edition that's been kicked around the shelves, usually in not the greatest shape, and then deeply discounted to the point where they just want to get rid of it. So, I don't know. You can look at the financials of Best Buy, they're closing stores left and right, and then be like, well, why are you buying all those $150 Assassin's Creed collector's editions that nobody in their right mind is going to buy. Maybe one person. Why do you have 8 of them? And then you're selling all of a sudden 6 of them for $50. There's no profit there anymore. Anyway, we ran into the same type of situation. BioShock Infinite Premium Edition. This is not the Ultimate Collector's Edition. Like, I think there's one that comes with the Songbird statue. I'm sure of that. But this one is just the premium one. I think it comes with... Oh yeah. Okay. So it comes with a little handyman figure. And a couple other extras. Soundtrack, keychain. PSN themes. Wow. PSN themes. Why wouldn't you want this immediately? But yeah, this was discounted to $30 with our Gamers Club Unlocked. I think we paid about $30, something like that, which is insane. I don't know what this was originally. It had to be probably $80 or more, I would say. But yeah, the problem with collector's editions nowadays is they come out with the standard, and then they come out with this middle one, like this one, where you have, a few extras, a lot of downloadable content, that type of stuff. And then you have the really extravagant one where it's well over $100 and you got the figure, the huge figure and everything like that. But then a year and a half later comes the Game of the Year edition with everything. It's like the definitive edition. Has everything else that you want with that game. It kind of makes the big collector's edition obsolete in some ways, where it's not the definitive version of that game anymore, but you spent all that money, you feel like you should. And I think people have gotten burnt on that, and I don't know. They keep making those big collector's editions, and I just don't know if the business is going to stay that way. But we'll see. Only time will tell, I guess. Anyway, that was Best Buy. And then we went into a couple pawn shops. The one downtown there, not too bad. It got quite a few smaller games. Maybe $4, $5, $6 games. We got them for $2. That's a good deal for us, but nothing to really bring up on this video, I would say. And then we went across the street to, I believe it was called T&B Pawn. They have a little bit more games, but they're also priced separately a lot of times, not too much. It seemed like it got to a certain point and everything just kind of fell. I'm not sure if it was the number of years, how old the game was, that they would drop it be in that kind of like flat rate area or not. But we did end up getting Metal Gear Solid, the HD collection, which, remember what I was just talking about with definitive versions. You come out with this, everybody says, that's the definitive version of Metal Gear. I want to go out, get those 3 games in HD, which is Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, and Peace Walker, which was the PSP version. I can't imagine that looks too good. Even an HD version of a PSP game cannot look that good. But nonetheless, this sold pretty good. It didn't perform very well on the system. I think there was a lot of issues with how the game ran. And then just probably half a year later, Metal Gear Solid the Legacy Collection, which has everything. And that right there is more and more looking like that could be the definitive collection of Metal Gear games until, Phantom Pain comes out and maybe, I don't know, who knows, there could be five more versions of these collections for Metal Gear, because I'll show you in just a little bit how crazy this gets. And then in that same pawn shop, the Game Boy Advance games were all flat rate. But there was no Mario, there's no Nintendo stuff, that's all gone. When you're dealing with $3 games for Game Boy, they're all gone. But around here, there's certain things like Japanese-centric stuff that really doesn't connect to a lot of people. That's more in urban areas that kind of picks up a lot more traction. But in smaller towns where you're talking 10, 20,000 people or less, there's just not that many people that are into that. And even though everybody was into Dragon Ball back in the 90s, 2000s, there's still not people that want to go around picking those up. And then I do find that stuff quite a bit. And that's no different right here. Dragon Ball Advanced Adventure, which I think is the RPG for Game Boy Advance. There was many Dragon Ball games for the Game Boy Advance, but a few of them are either like $15, $20, and the rest of them are under $4. So you really got to be careful when you're looking for that. Kind of look up which ones you want to get. There are some good ones. Even the $4 ones, I think, are some of the more popular ones on there. But this one, as you'll notice, is not Dragon Ball Z. This is Dragon Ball. So I don't know what that has to do with much about this game specifically, but I thought this was the RPG. RPGs usually hold their value more, and that's why this one is the more collectible one. So that was a very good deal at the pawn shop compared to a lot of other things in there. So we were happy to get those two games and maybe a couple more. I think we got some disc-only stuff that was not that good. But, 3, 2, 1. And then we went to the other local game store in town there in Brainerd, which is a play and trade, which is probably something you've heard of, but probably don't have around anymore. They pretty much went out of style with Blockbuster, it seems like, even though they had nothing to do with renting games or anything like that. They just can't, you just can't take down the behemoth that is GameStop, apparently. These are franchises. Each person owns their own franchise part of it compared to GameStop, which is all corporate. So you do get a different variety and a different flavor to every play and trade that you go into. Unfortunately, there's not too many around, but I think this is the only one in Minnesota now, which is saying something. One of the few left in the Midwest, maybe. But this guy is really friendly. I think his name is Mark. Been in there quite a few times. Prices his games, which you would think goes off of the computer, but I don't know how it could. I think he does price his games what he kind of wants them to. Maybe not. Who knows? I don't know what the freedoms are of that franchise. But anyway, we did find quite a few games in there. We always do. We always probably spend over $100 there every day, every time we go there. And this was pretty close to that, I think. We found Metal Gear Solid: The Essential Collection. That's right, The Essential Collection. Remember this? Forget about that. This is The Essential Collection. Except it's not HD, so you might want to play these back to back and say, well, I played the essential parts of these ones, and then I played these and got the HD version. Even though I can't get the HD version of Metal Gear Solid 1, we're just going to have to buy them both. And then maybe after that buy the Legacy Collection, and then 4 and 5. Oh, and Ground Zeroes, because we can't have the full game with it. But yeah, Metal Gear Insanity. That's probably the only thing that's keeping Konami in business as far as video games go nowadays. So I guess they kind of have to get as much money as they can from it. For GameCube, we got Godzilla Destroy All Monsters, which lately Godzilla games have gone up in price. I don't know if it's the movie or what, but That's just the way it's been. You can look at price charts, graphs, kind of camel, this stuff. And Godzilla, there's demand. I don't know why. Anyway, and on the GameCube, more friendly for parents, I would suppose. They can use in their Wii. But yeah, that was a good price. It's still at the price that was maybe last year. He hasn't caught up yet on that. And then another thing he hasn't caught up on, which I'm just barely starting to catch up on, is Sega Genesis boxed games are going through the roof now. I don't know why, because boxed Sega games are actually pretty common compared to Super Nintendo games, where I would say a Super Nintendo game, 95 out of 100 of them, of the same copy, are going to be the cartridge only, where Sega, it's maybe 75, 70, 65, I don't know. There's a high percentage that do come with cartridge, or come with the case at least. Manuals are kind of getting there, hard to find. So complete games on Sega for the desirable Sega games are really starting to grow apart from the regular cartridge. I was just talking about that on Twitter the other day with Ian Ferguson from the CU podcast, and yeah, kind of ran it. I've noticed the same stuff where I don't understand how these games are getting that way. People are just, I don't know if they're just hopping on the Sega bandwagon and they're just throwing their money around. Who knows? But that's why I always look for these now, and that's why I picked up a few more, like NHL 94, my second one of the day, which is actually pretty crazy because you see this cartridge quite a bit, and then maybe not. Maybe this is one of those games that maybe I probably skipped over a lot. I just saw EA Sports, forget it. Just didn't even think about it. And then a couple more ones that I picked up. I don't think they're really worth much, but there's something that I don't see every day. So Warrior of Rome 1 and 2, which I think they're more of like a strategy game in the lines of Koei games. That's kind of what they seem like anyway, or that's what they're trying to go for. And both of them are complete, so I had to get those for what I think they were $5 a piece. And then World of Illusion, which is not the more desirable ones, but the Illusion games are always classics on the Sega. But Castle of Illusion is the one that everybody wants. It even had the remake. So, and then of course classic Earthworm Jim. And that one's a complete one, I believe. Yes, it is a complete copy of Earthworm Jim, and those are starting to skyrocket too. I don't get it. Earthworm Jim's a great game. I wouldn't say great. It hasn't aged too well. It's got great animation, some good humor. Maybe the humor doesn't last or age as well as I thought it did. The nostalgia on it, not so much. I just played it today a little bit and just didn't live up to what I remembered it as, unfortunately. And I think that was it at Play and Trade. Got a couple other Sega games that were not really of note, but we really stacked up our Sega boxes there. So, again, we're happy to support Mark. Awesome store. I love it in there. One of the few places that I wish I could live closer to take my stuff there, trade it in if I had my stuff. If I didn't have this to trade to, I mean, obviously all the games that I get that I want to play go right back into here. But if I was the normal person, like everybody else, Mark is that type of guy to give your games to. If you're not going to give them to us, of course. But anyway. Oh yeah, and the last two things I want to talk about today are way outside of our wheelhouse. We usually don't deal in this stuff. But we stopped at the Goodwill there, which usually never has anything. It's this small area. It's like a strip mall, even smaller than that, and they cram all this Goodwill stuff in there, which never has the kind of stuff that I'm looking for. But today, not something I'm looking for necessarily, but saw it and figured, hey, why not? This is not something I'm going to see again. So we found a sealed copy of the Mystery Collection, a bunch of Infocom and Activision PC games from, I'm sure it's the 90s. This is nothing great. I mean, this stuff, if you've ever been to any retailer nowadays and you look down the computer aisle for computer games, there might be a section for your Blizzard game. There might be a section for buy some Steam cards. And then there's a whole stretch of jewel cases that are stuff like this. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe these are not as equivalent as what today's mystery collections and Agatha Christie novels and Hardy Boy computer games are. I don't know. But this is what, when you say something, the mystery collection, that just what it brings to mind nowadays. But this is Windows 95 compatible, so probably most people are out of luck. Anyway, sealed computer games, big box games, they're starting to get popular. I don't know what we're going to do with this. If you want it, contact us. It's not going on the site. I don't know what we do. We do have a stack of computer games that we don't really do anything with, but if we get them, we should get them cheap enough. And we've never done anything with them. Someday, maybe, we'll see. But one I do know of that we picked up was a brand new copy of SimAnt, which SimAnt, if you don't know, is a little bit different than a lot of those other sim games like SimCity ushered in. These ones were much more kind of strategic, but also kind of action. I don't know really how to describe it. You build your ant farm and all that, and then kind of do the simulation, and you live in the backyard of a family, I believe. I don't know. It's been many years. I think I played it in school a long time ago. But a sealed copy, that's pretty cool. Had to get that. I mean, we paid $5, which is not... That's not a cheap Goodwill price. But sealed copy. And again, if you want this, let us know. We can work something out. Not asking for much for this type of stuff. Not something we really want to deal with anyway. But that's going to do it for our trip to Brainerd. It was a one-day trip. No part 2 this time. Because, as you can tell, we're back. We're back in shop already. So, that's pretty much all I got for today. Thank you. Bye.